One, and we're recording. Hello, my name is Bryce Tubbs. With me today is Judith Kurnick. She is a work-life strategy coach for professionals over 50, as well as a classical music journalist and writer. She applies resources, coaching expertise, and experience to help professionals overcome difficult challenges in the second half of life, including age-related issues, work-life balance concerns, and post-career planning for individuals and couples. I'm extremely excited to be able to share her story with you guys and really have a great conversation today. Thank you guys so much. And thank you so much, Judith. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Bryce. It's great to be here.
Excellent. So everybody has a story. What was life like before you got into coaching, and what was really the catalyst for you getting into this field?
I want to ask you a question first, if that's okay.
Okay.
You reached out to me and you said, I'm interested in your story. What was it that made you decide to contact me?
Well, I really like that niche because one thing that is really upsetting is when you see people who either didn't plan correctly or didn't really have enough forethought, or some things happen in their life and now they're either working at a job that they don't like, or the retirement just didn't stretch into enough. And I think it's really great that your mission is to be able to help those people out and give them some resources to be able to do so, because it's hard when you don't have any options and when you don't know what your options are. So I think that's really, really helpful and beneficial that we can actually have you on to give some tips.
Well, thanks. I was just curious because there are a lot of coaches out there, and you are not in my neighborhood, and I just thought it'd be interesting to find out why. So appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
And actually, that is a great lead into the answer to your question, because I experienced the situation that I coach people on.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, I had a very full career and a successful career through my late 50s and actually early 60s. And things kept creating more opportunities in the same field. And it was communications, strategic communications, primarily in the arts, but I also did speech writing for a college president, and had a lot of experience with very high-level institutions and working with leaders on communication strategy and crisis management and decision making. But I really started to feel very burned out, and very much as if I wasn't expressing who I really am at this stage in my life. And I got to a point where I just knew I had to make a change. And it took me 2 or 3 years of emotional struggle, honestly, to kind of overcome the fear, and B, to figure out, what really was possible. And I realized that over that time, my experience as a journalist makes me a collector of information. So I have files. Most of them are online now, but I got files. And people would start coming to me for information about, well, how do you deal with Medicare? Or how do you figure out, what you can possibly do? And while I'm not a specialist in Medicare or Social Security or any of that, I gathered resources, people I trust, answers to questions, and above all, I read, I listen, I'm constantly taking things in, and I realized that when you are a professional, it's like losing a piece of yourself to let go of your work identity. It's like, who am I without it? It's like jumping off a precipice. And I realized that it would be really important to be able to know at the moment that I took the jump, some version of what was coming next. And in my case, I needed to keep earning some income. And I needed to have this purpose that really expressed me. And in my case, it was kind of natural when you look back at it, but I hadn't realized it until it happened, which is that about 10 years ago, when I was at Penn, as I said, a speechwriter for the president there, I started an organization dynamics master's program, and was really attracted to the coaching track and took a bunch of coaching courses, and expected to, at that point, really develop coaching as a secondary area. But life got in the way.
Mhm.
I got recruited for a very big job in New York and didn't finish the degree, but began using the coaching skills in a lot of different arenas in my regular work. And as it happened, the job that I took at that time was in July of 2008. So obviously by 2 or 3 months later, we were in a tremendous crisis.
Mhm.
And I was coaching leaders across the country in this time. So that was all in the background. And when I came to this moment of truth, I thought, gee, this is really what I'd like to do. And, thought about it, did the financial due diligence, thought about what it would take, and took a coaching program to, get the skills up to date, and started and put out my shingle.
Mhm.
And that happened to be in Houston. That was where my last big job of my former career was, and my first clients were in Houston. And it also led to having a kind of national practice.
Nice. So, let's say that someone's watching, and whether they're approaching retirement age, but just any type of career transition. Can you give some tips as to either how to stay balanced, how to not get extremely stressed or worried, or how can they manage that time?
Well, I think first of all, this is an unusual time. This particular time magnifies everything
Mhm.
because we're all living with this added incredible anxiety and uncertainty. But one of the things I always think about for myself when there's any change in store is the idea of transition and what a transition actually is. It's actually 3 parts. There's the letting go of the old. There's the middle stage when things are kind of unknown. And then there's the ability to start fresh. And what we all forget is that unknown time is really fertile. It's kind of like when you're planting a garden and you have to dig up the ground first in order to plant the seeds, and there's nothing to see, and it looks really barren and bare. And usually it's over the winter,
Mhm.
that's part of the process. And so there's a level of having to be comfortable with being uncomfortable and allowing yourself to cultivate patience. So that's, I think the first thing is to recognize that that's part of it, and then begin to just take in as much as you can and listen to yourself and see what. I work with a specific process around the work that I do for people at this stage of life transition. But it's interesting to me that I've also attracted just a number of younger women who came to me because they're dealing with this work-life balance challenge, and they wanted someone who's been through it. And that isn't necessarily my niche, but I do work with them. And I think it's this idea that, you can make it through and that there is light at the end of the tunnel. You just have to be willing to put one foot in front of the other and not expect it to all happen at once.
So, here's a good one. So, a big word that whenever I talk to a lot of coaches that comes up is awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about the awareness of, or because oftentimes it doesn't just happen overnight. It might seem like it happens overnight that you want to leave,
Yeah,
but once that's happened and you don't know exactly why, can you give some tips about how to get awareness as to what you actually do want?
sure. I call it a wake-up call.
Mm-hmm.
It's like an internal voice. And, there are different parts of your awareness. There's your physical body,
Mm-hmm.
there's your mind, and then there's sort of your uh, intuition, your heart, whatever you want to call that feeling part. And everybody's different. But I will tell you from personal experience, in my case, I had physical symptoms. For example, I was starting to feel stress in my gut. I had pain. So if you have any pain, that's a first thing. That's part of a wake-up call to think, what is my body telling me? Um, Obviously, if you're emotionally unhappy, to just take a moment and think about it. I really recommend people write, because writing, and I mean writing with your hand, not necessarily on the computer, there's something that happens in the mind-body connection when you physically use your hand to put words to paper. It helps you become clearer. And even if it's just 5 minutes in the morning, just start writing. And a lot of things come out that you didn't even realize were in there. So those are two things that I use a lot with clients that they find helpful.
That writing, can we go a little bit deeper into that? Right?
Sure.
Because I always hear everybody just say writing, but can you even give it can you give an example? Because the reason why I say this is because it does take practice to be able to listen to yourself to just write freely for a little while. It's kind of like meditation. As you do it more, you get better at it. But for those who've never done it before, can you maybe give them like a tip of maybe 3 things that they could try and write about or something?
Um, Actually, you don't even need that.
Uh,
Um, you sit down, you have a pen, and if the first thing that comes to your mind is, I can't figure out what to write, write that. What
mm,
we're talking about is what they call a brain dump. It's
mm,
literally, it doesn't matter what you're writing. It's the physical act that generates thoughts. And you will find, if you say to yourself, I'm just going to write the first thing that comes in, including the block. If
uh,
the block is there and it says, I'm blocked, I can't write that.
mm,
And you'll be
mm.
amazed to see what comes out. And even if you have to write, I'm blocked, I'm blocked, I'm blocked, I can't write, I hate this, this is terrible, I don't want to do this anymore, just write all that. It will change.
uh. Interesting. I guess see that's why I bring people like you on,
Yeah.
because a lot of people stop at just right. But like whenever I get a client, I'll say, just shoot a video, maybe post to your channel. But what if it's not good enough? What
Yeah.
if I don't know where to post it? What if I don't? What if no one likes it? I'm like, just take the first step.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's, it's the same thing, but there's one big difference, which is that the fear for video is that you're making something public.
Mm-hmm.
So it's got bigger stake. This is just for you. And this is not anything that anyone will ever need to see. It's an exercise for your brain. It's like doing a puzzle. And that's, by the way, another one that a lot of people like to try is just do puzzles. Um, the brain needs to be given things to do that stimulate it, that juice it up, that challenge it in ways that are different than it's used to.
Mm. So, just kind of changing gears,
Mm.
I guess vision, what's either vision for this year or as far out as you want, what's the vision look like?
For me,
Correct.
for me, it's about helping people. I discovered, the thing that really pushed me to leave my work is that the jobs that I did, I was representing and having to kind of be the cheerleader for institutions.
Mm-hmm.
And what I realized is that for me, the reward is seeing people feel better, get better, accomplish things, feel satisfied. And so for me, it's about trying to get the word out to folks that this is possible, especially in this time.
Mm-hmm.
There are still many ways that people can accomplish their purpose. And it doesn't have to be one thing. It's very often it's a portfolio of things. But the idea is to educate people. And that's my vision really, is to try to get this word out to folks that this time doesn't mean you're paralyzed. There is opportunity, but the most important thing is to know yourself. And so one size doesn't fit all. And if you can buy a book and you can do this and that, and those are all very helpful. But the other piece of it is that you have to stick to it. And having goals is important, but figuring out how to meet them is not always so easy in this time. So I want to be of service. That's really my goal. I never set out to say, I'm going to have X number of clients, I'm going to write a book. I've always been a person that follows my intuition, follows my heart, and things have come to me. So, like you.
So, since you want to help right now, where can people who might be stuck go to either connect with you or learn more about you?
Well, there are a number of options. I have a LinkedIn page, obviously, and I also have a website, judithkurnickcoaching.com. I write a newsletter a couple of times a month, and there's a sign up on the website for that. It's a Longevity Insights newsletter for people that want to know more about living healthier past midlife and longer. So those are the main options. And there are obviously on the website, there is a way to connect with me for either speaking or personal work. I'm also developing some groups, some small groups, to work on some things, perhaps in smaller pieces. So if people are interested in just trying to get started on something, I have a shorter term small group program that I'm starting to launch that is more about just getting a little help and a little bit of connection with other people.
Nice. I really appreciate your time today. The time actually flew. It's already been 20 something minutes.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, it did fly.
Yeah. And for those watching, we really appreciate your time, and we really hope that you got some great value out of this. If you want to go and join a community where people are improving themselves and helping others do the same, I recommend that you go and check out the links either above or below to our free community. Basically what it is a mastermind of people coming together and supporting each other and uplifting each other, because you are the average of the people that you spend the most time around. So you want to be more positive, go around positive people. So if that is you and that's what you've been looking for, go ahead and join us inside there by clicking the links either above or below the video. Hopefully you enjoyed watching this video as much as we enjoyed creating it. Feel free to hit that share button so other people can get some value as well. Have a great day, guys. We're done recording in 3 and 2 and 1, and we're